Okay, welcome to this week's episode of Warrior. Where the hell are we now? Warrior Concepts. That's us. This episode of KUDEN. There it is. Thanks, James. I appreciate it. Boy, I didn't think I needed cue cards tonight. But anyway, all right. So for those of you who don't know me, if you're new, Daishian Miller here from Warrior Concepts. And so we are on, what the hell are we on? Episode 233. So 34 episodes ago, we celebrated our 200th episode, and crap, in a couple more, we're going to be doing 250. So what were the stats that I read during the 200? James, was it, I don't know, most podcasts don't get through or don't get past like a 9th episode. I don't know. Maybe I'm just too damn tenacious to know when to quit. But anyway, all right. So got another good one for you this time. So we're going to take a look at, specifically, I want to take a look at a saying that one of the master teachers, now a soke, within the 9 schools, has in the dojo and reminds us of. I'll take a look at some other ones as well. I've got one from Shrey Sensei that I trained with, Shoshi Malmstrom, and even one from Soke. We'll talk about those briefly, but I really want to dive into the one from Isuke Sensei because, like many things in this art, right, for quite a while, right, I took that at face value, and then it took some diving in, some thinking and whatnot about these things. And so that's the point of this week's episode. What I want to do is I want to share with you the results of some of this, we'll call it insight-based thinking, pondering, something like that. All right. So anyway, I'm looking forward to talking to everybody during this episode. And I don't know, James is in the wings. Maybe he wants to talk to you too. But anyway, I'll talk to you more about this when we get started. Question is this: how are self-defense and success-minded people like us, concerned citizens worried about protecting ourselves, our loved ones, and the things we care about from the monsters we know exist in the world? How do we train in a way that gives us the skills, knowledge, and understanding we need without becoming paranoid fighters or killers ourselves, and yet still allows us to be the hero protector the world needs us to be? That's the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Jeffrey Miller, and welcome to KUDEN Radio, real training for real people in a real world. All right, and we are back. Welcome to KUDEN episode 233. I think I had that number right. Is it 233? I think so. Anyway, so what a hell of a topic, right? I don't know. Some of you guys probably already have this on like auto set, or you're binge listening or whatever. If you're driving in your car and you're in my future, then I don't know, you may not be able to see the topics. So, but for those of you who did, you're on the email list, or I don't know, you're on Facebook. I don't know that this one got posted like preset or preempted on Instagram or some of the other ones. I did on my schedule's been really busy the last couple of days. We're working on a bunch, and then I've got a wedding that I'm going to in upstate New York. My wife's cousin, is getting married, so that'll be cool. But what that normally means is, well, I will be taking some work along to do late at night while she's sleeping. Because of all the travel time and whatnot, I will have, well, actually, what do I have? 3 days to get 5.5, 6 days worth of stuff done. So anyway, fun times. Anyway, so if you saw this, saw the stuff that went out, great. If not, and you're audio only, or you're binge watching, listening, whatever, because we wouldn't be watching YouTube videos while we're driving, right? No, of course not. Anyway, so what I called this one was 3 ways to die in the dojo. And this is actually based on this, I called it a saying, but it's a reminder. It is a constant reminder that comes out quite a bit in Isuke Sensei's dojo, Ishizuka Soke dojo, right? And that is, every time you come to the dojo, every time you come to class, you risk dying. It's probably why the classes are smaller there. So I'm going to come back to that one because that's actually going to be the primary focus for this episode. But what I have found over the years, and it's I don't know, I think I like most people went through phases, and what I mean by that is we could repeat, often jokingly, right, what certain teachers say all the time. Right? But I started taking these things to heart and recognizing them for what they are. Okay? And so I've got three other ones here that in their classes, right? These were things that I heard more often than not, right? And again, I had to, they went from being this thing, right, that the teacher says consistently enough that, right, it sticks, to taking it at face value, right, the omote, right, the face value, the frontal, obvious side of things, and then flipping it, right, and or not, maybe not flipping it, but going deeper into it, right, asking the question, is there more to this than what it looks like? Okay, and of course, because we're talking about ninjutsu, the answer is always yes, right? I may not know what they are or what things are, but hopefully that'll condition the questions that I ask, right? So before I jump into those, don't forget, whatever platform you're on, like, share. If you're over on YouTube, where this stuff tends to live long term, under the live tab, I think I have a separate playlist for KUDEN as well. But if you're over there, subscribe, hit the notification bell, or alternatively, or as a backup, because shit can go away anytime. Nothing is guaranteed ever, and the fact that human beings try to make it that way is part and parcel of the reason why we either suffer or are not happy, right? Often enough. Anyway, so you could always go to the website at onlineninjaacademy.com/KUDEN podcast. James maybe can put it in the chat for anybody that's new. You can go over there, and I think it's version 2, right, James? It's I'm sorry, not KUDEN. Yeah, KUDEN podcast. And never mind, I was thinking about Whiteboard Wednesday. We have a version 2 on that page. So either way, go to the one where it has the little form, and you can get signed up so that you're on the early notification list, and you get this and other stuff as well. So let's start with some of these other sayings. Right? So I'm going to start with one of the Japanese teachers that I've trained with a lot. Like every time I go to Japan, unless there was a time where this one trip, he actually got injured. Right, it wasn't in training, believe it or not. Right, and so he was out for a bit, and so his classes went on, and there were some folks that were covering the classes, and the classes were fine, but it lacked that certain something, if you know what I mean. So anyway, Shrey Sensei, whose huge focus is his primary focus is on balance, right? Balance breaking, not just his, but yours as well. And one of the most heard sayings, right, from him in his classes is good action do, good situation make. Now you have to understand he speaks very fluent English, but tends to use the Japanese syntax. What I mean by that is the word order. So yeah, you have to hear it for a while so that your brain puts things in the right order for you. Okay, but good situation do good. Or I'm sorry, good action do, good situation make, and this just points to karma, right? Because the opposite of that is bad action do, bad situation make, right? As long as we're not, trying to defy all natural laws and think that we can do whatever we want and we'll still get what we want. One of my teachers used to call that baby magic, right? Where it's kind of like, we make that wish over the birthday cake and we believe that we make that wish hard enough and blow out those candles all at one breath, right? One breath, then it'll come true. No, maybe, but that's not been my experience, right? But that was this big thing. So, but this phrase was a not just a martial arts or self-defense thing, right? We would have lots of different discussions. Sometimes just out, right? Could have been, shopping. Could have been he could have been giving me a ride from the Taikokan in Kashiwa to the train station, and we're just having this discussion. But it would come up in many different contexts, so not just martial arts, but in life. So that was a huge one, right? So this good action do, good situation make. This requires a whole bunch of assessment and those kind of things. As a matter of fact, next week's topic is going to be on my, not my eye, right? For those of you on audio only, I just pointed at my own eye, right? That's not bad slang, right? My, M-A-A-I, as we would write it, or if we look at the kanji, ma-I, right? And so this typically will have to do with distance and things like that. It's related to the kudai-dori, catching space, proper positioning, those kind of things in the Koto school. But we're going to take a look at that. That's going to be next week's theme, where we're going to actually break that down into 4 subsets. And so, actually not 4, it may have 4 subsets. So for Kuden, we're going to take a look at Mai from a life perspective, and I will introduce you to 4 other terms, Japanese terms, that all have to do with assessing, feeling, those kind of things when it comes to positioning yourself properly. But what we're going to be talking about, I'll keep bouncing back and forth between like the physical self-defense aspect, which is where most people tend to get that. I'll give you an example, or we'll discuss how I have come to see my eye as something that's not just physical, but can be applied psychologically to protect your mind, can be applied emotionally, spiritually, those kind of things, right? Just like I broke down resilience last week, and we'll be finishing that up this week on Whiteboard Wednesday. So we'll take a look at these other things they're related, but they're more specific, like to relationships and things like that, to make sure that you're protecting the whole self. Right? These are common themes, and the reason I'm introducing them now is fall camp's coming up, and so if you're signed up for it and you'll be here for the weekend, then during that weekend we're going to be taking a look at these different aspects of ourselves. Right? So for every technique that I teach, the breakout instructors can do, they're doing their own thing. But the things that I'm teaching, if we're doing a technique, if we're doing whatever we're doing, if we're doing a kata, using a weapon, whatever, we're going to be taking a look at the physicality of it, right? So it's body, mind, spirit integration. That's the theme. So we're going to look at the physical form, right, and what that's doing, and what we need to be doing to make sure that physically and physiologically that's easy. That's easy for us, and it puts him in a bad place. But we're also going to take a look at it from the perspective of the psychology, right, of the technique, right? So that involves strategy, that it involves tactical application, right? It's the logic, it's the rationale, but it's also the moment to moment discernment of where we are, what we need to be doing at that particular phase of the engagement, right? What's the priority, to make sure that it's going where we want it to go for this, the overall strategy, right? Where I need him to be when this thing is over, and the position I need him to be in. So this will not be, while anybody of any rank can train this. This is definitely Sandan and above. But then we're also going to do the same thing with the heart, right? The intention, call it spirit, call it whatever you want, with what kind of things in there should be, or could be there to jack up the level of power, to give you more advantage, those kind of things, right? So this is like that. Okay? So how do we apply that? So again, because these things feed into what I'm doing during camp, I'm just kind of breaking things down and giving everybody kind of a, well, I'd say sampling, but the comments I've been getting, not bad, right? It's just been like, holy shit, that I never thought about it like that. Like that's a lot. Yeah, I understand. And I stopped at 6. So and that's not a bad thing. It's just one of those things where we need to recognize it's one thing to say that training, we'll be training till the day we die. That's a whole other thing to know what to be working on, or know that there's always something to be working on, even if we were to collect every single kata on every single scroll in all the lineages, right? There's still stuff. One of my students is finding that out now. I don't know if she's on tonight or not. Christy injured her knee, and so she's going to be down for a while. That leg's going to be locked out for 8 weeks, and then she's going to have a long road to getting things back where it needs to be. But she was really worried that she wasn't going to be able to do martial arts training. And I said, well, if it's physical, you're probably right. Or if we were doing tic-tac-toe or whatever, right? Ground and pound, or yeah, of course not, right? You just continue to shred that thing. But because this is needed to, there's always something, right? So, but again, this phrase from Shrey Sensei, good action do, good situation make, points to, more than just knowing the moves, right? Assessing the situation, knowing the context, seeing the bigger picture, right? If I take action in certain directions, while I may win, right, what am I going to have to deal with after the fact, right? And if I take other actions, right, what's the long-term outcome? Okay, this is the realm of a strategist, right? Not just somebody who's just good at thumping, kind of thing, right? And I know I've heard the cliches, right? Rather be tried by 12 than carried by 6, and blah blah blah. Okay, so it goes well beyond that. Okay. Anyway, I am going to pause. I was going to do that earlier, and I got caught up in things. So, James, who do we have on? Who's saying hi? Any questions or comments up to this point? Again, we have a new setup on this side, so we're trying to find buttons and switches. What do you got?
Looks like Dave's on, Jeffrey's on.
Awesome.
Jimmy came past, said konbanwa.
Who?
Jimmy.
Oh, okay. Konbanwa. Oyasuminasai.
Over on YouTube, Jay Gary said hello.
Hello. That's a name I don't know that I know. Do I know that name? I don't know. Okay. Right. Is that it for now?
Yes, sir.
No questions, no comments, just hello. Okay, awesome. All right. I'm not trying to dismiss anybody. I got a bunch here and I want to get through it. I know everybody has like a life to get back to. I'm just a I'm just a speed bump on the highway to almost said hell. Anyway, all right. So that was Shirei Sensei's saying, right? The good action do, good situation make. Again, it points to karma, right? The more information, details, those kind of things that we have, the better off. Okay. So, and then Shoshi Malmstrom, I trained with him quite a bit, former Marine, good guy. He was actually the first Bujinkan Westerner to attain 10th degree, right, under Hatsumi Sensei. Right? Most people think that Shiroshi Hayes got his 10th degree first because he was doing this first and all that, and no, that's not the way it happened, right? But his constant reminder in class, there were lots, right? There were lots. He had sayings like, if you're not giving 100%, you're taking up too much space. If you die during training, we split your gear, that kind of stuff. A big question was like, why are you doing that? Okay. He'd make you stop in the middle of a technique with your partner, right? You could be in Kamai or whatever. And he goes, why is your hand right there? And then we all knew if you said, because that's where it's supposed to be in Ichimonji, or that's what this, whatever, right? You got this 145-pound romping, stomping hillbilly hell glare at you. Former Marine wanting to come back out. And so what that was usually followed up with was, if you don't know, then stop doing it. Well, what am I supposed to be doing with my hand or arm? Figure it out. But when you know what its job is, then one, you'll know why it's there, and two, you'll be able to use it properly and effectively instead of just aping things, right? Because it's quote unquote the style. But that wasn't the big thing. The big thing was everything we focused on was from the martial aspect. We didn't just use the term martial arts, right? Martial implies warfare. Martial implies life or death. So his constant reminder when someone or the entire freaking class wasn't getting something or wasn't being mindful of something that was an absolute priority, he'd say, if you screw this up, your family better look good in black. Okay. So he didn't have to say there are no do-overs. He didn't have to say this is serious or whatever. We had some of the most fun classes. Right? The man could tell jokes, but if you're sensitive and easily triggered and you don't like off-color jokes, no, he's not your guy. So, but he was very clear, right? A close second behind this is if you don't believe this works as is, and you need to modify it, make it a hybrid between this and how many other different systems or whatever, there's the goddamn door. Okay, go do that thing, because you obviously think that is more effective, or you wouldn't be trying to add it to this. Right? So again, his saying was, if you screw this up, your family better look good in black. Not you better look good in black. Not you better look good in a cast. Not you better look good with tubes sticking out of you. Whatever. It's kind of a final thing, right? So, and then I was going to share one with by Nagato Sensei, but his is pretty close to Shoshi Malmstrom's. A little variation, right? He would just say, "Screw up, you die." It's just really, really simple, right? But one from Soke that everybody's heard, right? Even if you're just somebody who just binge watches YouTube and that's how you're learning ninjutsu, you've heard it, right? He would say play, right? But that was a short version. It always says play. The full version actually turned into the title of a book that was written by somebody that translated him or translated for him for quite a while. It was called Understand Good Play. And had lots of people collect books and whatnot. I don't know how long it stayed in publication because, didn't have any physical techniques in it. Not that it didn't have lots of descriptions of physical techniques and little tidbits here and there, but there were no, I say no, there weren't like photograph sequences of techniques, right? No picture books. And lots of little things, but they were little snippets. They were little one-liners or maybe a short paragraph or something, because they were taken straight from the editor, author, the person who put the book together. They were put together from his notes from within classes with Hatsumi Sensei. And so I always said that the book itself was not very good for most students. And, of course, that's blasphemy, because how could you say that? Well, I can say that because if you weren't in those classes where he said that, or in similar classes where the same topic was being discussed, or the same principle, concept, or whatever was there, it's kind of like getting the scroll or getting the Densho, where you get these little line by line short snippets of important points within a kata, right? Uke tsuki. Then you're supposed to do X, Y, Z, and whatever. And people think that when they get the scrolls or they get the Densho, they will have all the magic. No, it's going to take a lot of work. Okay, and you still have to be initiated into those things, and somebody still has to explain it, or whatever, right? So, but what I always said was, for most students, like if you didn't have those experiences, if you weren't in those classes or classes like it, right? Like I can go through that book, and the author would say, we were training with swords one night, and where people were cutting, and Hatsumi Sensei would say and my head would drop right into one of those classes, right? And I could hear him saying it, not because I was visualizing something that didn't happen, but because it induced a memory. But for most students, the most important part of that book was the introduction, where these three words were spelled out, right? What Hatsumi Sensei meant when he said each one. Now, they always went in a chain. Understand? Good, play, right? And lots of people like to parrot that, right? James, have you ever heard somebody, right, say play after they demonstrate a technique, and they do it with like the same inflection, the same whatever? It's like they're trying to be somebody else. The funnier part is when somebody does it and they do it in broken English, right? Or they do it with a Japanese accent, but they're not Japanese, not even a little bit, right? So, but anyway, the full string, understand, good, play, right? So the first word is, he's asking you not just, do you understand, but there's an assumption in there, right? And I'm going to paraphrase this part of the book, right? That way, I'll save you the money if you don't already have it, right? There's an assumption that he has, and that he spelled out. And that assumption is, we're all grown up enough as students that if we don't understand something, we're going to speak up. We're going to ask a question, or we're going to say, no, I don't understand, right? But if everybody's nodding like horses, right, at the feed box, right, then he says, good, right? Okay, good. If you understand, fantastic, right? So now play. And this is that word that everybody hears a lot. But what the hell does that mean? Okay. Well, people can you start off thinking that he just means have a good time, whatever, enjoy your training. And it's not that that's not there, but this ties in with a meaning he associated with the Sanshin. Okay. the Sanshi no Kata. Okay? And that is that one, once you get the moves, once you get the kata and you understand how to do that, then you start to experiment, and you experiment as if this were a brand new thing, quote unquote thing, that you just discovered. And you come at it with the mind of a 3-year-old. Okay? And what that is I don't know what this is. Okay. But I'm going to try a bunch of different things with it and see if I can figure it out. We're not coming at it with the mind of Einstein, where we already know what it is. And so there's only one use. There it is. It's very, very different. Okay. So the first two, right, Shai Sensei's speaks directly to karma, right? But it's more life-like, right? It's more about life, because it could have been about martial arts or self-defense. It could have been about husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, domestic partnership, whatever. Just, relationship that way. Could be about friendships, could be about business relationships, could be about setting goals, making plans, whatever, right? Good action do, good situation make. Shoshu Malmström's, and by extension Nagata Sensei's, very much martial oriented, right? Most of life is not just negotiable, but it's adjustable and adaptable, right? So what I mean by that is going out and buying a piece of furniture, like, I don't know, sofa, love seat, couch, whatever you want to call it, right? Dining room table, or a refrigerator or something like that, right? While it will certainly improve your life, whether it's just aesthetics in the house, or, you'll not have, like, be trying to eat rotting and curdling food and crap like that if it's a refrigerator. But if you bought the wrong thing, or you got conned into buying one, right? Slick salesman, that kind of thing. Or you didn't do your due diligence, right? And you went out and bought a refrigerator that now doesn't fit between the wall and the custom cabinetry that you made or had put in prior, then whatever, okay? Same thing with a car, couch, whatever. There's a flaw. You get it home and you realize, oh, shit, this is not going to work for me, right? You can always take it back. You can send it back, okay? And get the one that does fix, right? Does work, right? But in a self-defense situation, right, or with martial arts training, to that end, this goes way beyond training properly. This goes to your selection of teacher. This goes to how much of a yes man or yes woman we are when we're being taught, right? Is there a healthy sense of doubt, or is there a mindset that is actually paying attention and reconciling things back and forth between what I know or what I've experienced in the world and what's being taught here, right? I mean, this is actually, are we actually defending against attacks that I would see on the street? Or if not, how does this fit in, right? Is it a training model I'm going to go grow beyond? Is this something that's classical and it gives me something that's a big model that I instantly know whether I'm doing it right or I'm not? And then we're going to branch into, the way people attack in my world. And then at an upper level, we're going to be so damn good at our timing, distancing, angling, control the situation and whatnot, that no matter what kind of punch he throws, by the time it gets to me, it's straightened down. It looks exactly like that classical model, but he didn't plan to do that, right? That was all you. Or what is it, right? everything at that level with Shoshi Malmstrom, and again, Nagatsu Sensei by extension, was you screw this up, you're going to die, right? It's the reality of the situation. But this is not just one teacher's opinion, right? In the Mikkyo of the Gyokoryu, right? In the mudra and mantra and whatnot that come part and parcel with Gyokoryu stuff. The very first one, right, is this acknowledgement that the whole thing is about getting past the anxiety or the whatever bubbles up for people, where they have this need to win or fear of losing, and it's those things that gets in the way. It clouds judgment, causes them to do stupid shit, to land a shot, whatever, right? But this mudra and this attitude, there's a mindset, there's an intention and whatnot. It's all wrapped around recognizing and accepting universal justice, nature, whatever you want to call it, where I recognize that I am going to do the best that I can do. Right? He's going to do the best that he can do. And whoever does more right things at more right times and less wrong things at the wrong times, universal justice says they're going to win. Right? It's not about righteousness, right? So if we don't accept that, then we probably shouldn't be standing there. So, but this goes into when we will step up, under what conditions, right? What kind of moral and ethical filter do I use to determine when I will engage, right? What are the consequences of losing? And it's not just death, right? Those who relied on me for protection before that moment aren't going to have that. Now what? They have to go out and hire a new bodyguard, or hope that the new guy that my wife gets with, or that the kids are going to call dad maybe at some point, or grandpa or whatever, that they've got the skills to be able to keep them safe as well. So there's a much bigger picture to this, right? But again, the ultimate thing is this is not sport martial arts. This is not points. This is not, there is no do-over, right? There are no do-overs. Same story, the same thing I gave my stepkids. They were growing up, and we took them to DC, and let's just say that they had moments. And we went over to Arlington National Cemetery, and I didn't want them to have a moment, okay, quote unquote moment, where they would need an attitude adjustment in public, because the damage is always done, right? It's just like when, as a cop, one of the reasons why I left law enforcement wasn't because I didn't like the job, and wasn't because I didn't do it well, and it wasn't because I didn't like the people I worked with. Absolutely did. But the more I got my head wrapped around the principles and concepts in this art, the more imperative it became for me to teach the people who could end up being potential targets. Because as a cop, right, even if I'm on the scene when it happens, and even if I pull the guy off of them, or we catch the perpetrator and they go to jail and whatnot, the damage is done. Right? It can't be taken back. Right? A lot of people find that out afterwards. Right? Caught the killer, caught the bad guy, got tried, got sent to jail, got sentenced to death, whatever, and they still go through the rest of their life with that same hole in their heart, or empty feeling or whatever, because, okay, yeah, but every birthday, every holiday, anyway, so there was this sense of finality, right? Train well. There's a quote that's circulating around the internet, because everybody likes to do that with Hatsumi Sensei's quotes. Train well, your life is on the line, that kind of thing, right? So it's the same idea. And then with this thing with him with the whole play thing, right? So we got karma, life, and martial arts. Got karma, martial arts, ultimate karma, right? But with his, I think his was about managing karma. His was about what kind of karma are you going to create, right? So because ignorance begets ignorance, right? If we don't understand something or we assume understanding, right? Whatever that is, we're going to follow that path. We're going to train that way. We're going to make decisions that way. All that, right? I just heard James. Who's that one podcast? We were just talking about him. Jocko, yeah. Yeah. I've got to go back and watch or listen to this to that particular one. But I saw a snippet of it, and he was talking about this word, good, right? That it's a really great mantra for not only leading, but for inducing action, right? Right action, right? And to do what Shidoshi Malmstrom always told people, stop bitching, right? Because when you bitch, you're not solving anything. What you're doing is convincing yourself and the universe that you really are a victim. But what he was talking about with this was this word good. So somebody would, come to him and be complaining about something, and this thing happened, and he'd say, good, right? He would say this all the time, and he says it to himself as well. That how many times have we heard leaders say, "No, that's not a problem; it's an opportunity." Right? And I'm saying it with that kind of inflection because that's the way it rolls off most people's tongues because they don't buy it, right? But there's one thing to say it, and then you can choose to believe it or not. And there's another one to recognize that when things happen to you, good. Okay. Here's an opportunity to test your knowledge and your skills and your sense of being right, which is going to be a big part of next week's theme. Or to recognize that you don't have anything in your wheelhouse for that kind of thing. And so guess what? This is an opportunity to develop new skills. Right? And you can go from there. But this good here as the acknowledgement from the teacher, right, is a statement from the teacher that they trust that you're not lying to them, that they can let you go and you're gonna control things properly, right? I remember one time I was making a mistake in a technique that I was doing, and a teacher walks by and he kind of pats me on the shoulder and goes, "Oh, watch this thing here, watch it." And I was jackrabbit on coal, man. I was just, oh man, I just wanted to learn this technique. And he tells me, and ego flies to the front of my head, looks at him and goes, "I know." And he goes, "Oh, okay, good." And he walked away. That was on a Friday evening of a full weekend training. He didn't talk to me again until he said goodbye on Sunday. I got no feedback. And later, much later, we had a conversation about that thing. But at that point, I got it. Because if you know, then what do you need a teacher for? Why would they bother giving you any feedback? Okay. So really important stuff. And then that playing thing is just, right? It's and if we do it from the perspective of a 3-year-old who doesn't know very much about the world at all, right? Most things it encounters, even its own toys, it's got to figure out, right? Interesting stuff. Anyway, Any questions or comments that popped in during this part here before I get back to Ishizuka Sensei's thing? Because that's where the meat of this training is going to be. Anything, James?
Dave said the power words I like are fantastic and mighty. It's hard to say fantastic without feeling that way afterwards.
Yeah, it's amazing what some of this stuff will do. As a matter of fact, my daughter, Trinity, will be doing a breakout session during this camp. She's in her final semester at Georgetown, and she is a psych major. She's her goal is to work for one of the big agencies as a criminal profiler, right? So she's done criminology, forensics, and psychology, so doing the whole forensic psychology kind of thing. And her breakout session is actually going to be looking at the three mysteries, or what everybody knows in ninjutsu is the Sanmitsu, the triple secrets of success. And she's the breakout session, to the best of my understanding, is she's going to be taking a look at, one, what does modern psychology say about that stuff and its effectiveness, efficacy. There's a big $50 word out of a $5 mouth. But also, from a neurological standpoint, and what does doing, like, we have a student creed, we have these things that we do within Mikkyo and whatnot. What does that actually do to brain wiring when it's done consistently? Okay? So interesting, and that's kind of a parallel with what Sensei Major's doing. She's doing one with one of the other principles, and how it would have been done back in the day, and the focus, and she's going to bring it forward into the future, and how that affects ninjutsu training today, or should be affecting ninjutsu training today. So cool stuff. Anything else?
No, sir. That was it right now.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's jump back into this. This is kind of where the meat of things is, right? In Ishizuka Sensei's dojo, Ishizuka Soke's dojo. So I'm still getting used to saying that. There's a saying that every time you come to class, right? Every time you come to the dojo, you risk dying. And so for the longest time, I took that at face value. Okay, I took it at face value, and I didn't write it off nearly as much as my American students would write things off, because you can talk a certain way, but I know I signed a waiver, and I know that I assumed risk and all that kind of stuff. But if I get hurt in class, I'm just going to sue your fucking ass off and, call it a day. Or I'm going to try to have you, whatever, right? And don't tell me it doesn't fucking happen, right? I have personally come face to face with those moments where I've had to tell people, here's my lawyer's name, okay? Spell things right, right? And let's see in court, because you're not getting free money from me. Okay. And every instructor needs to make sure that they play shit like that. Anyway, I guess my dogs are as angry as I am. All right. So, but obviously, we took it at face value because it was Japan. And I learned a lot about, when I was stationed in what was then West Germany, that all this liability stuff and the instructor having to carry all this insurance and those kind of things, doesn't exist. Okay? The assumption of risk is huge in these other countries where responsibility is not easily waived, and any insurance or whatever is carried by the student, right? They're kind of tack on policies because you're doing something that is riskier than just, I don't know, day-to-day living. Okay. If you were doing downhill skiing, if you were doing, I don't know, water skiing, if you're doing anything, skydiving, all that kind of stuff, same thing, right? You assume risk. You jumped out of the goddamn plane, right? I mean, who are you going to sue if the chute doesn't open, right? Which, now that I say it, it's pretty freaking funny. You can sue anyway, but the family might, right? But that doesn't happen for the most part. It's not that it doesn't happen, but you get the idea. At least it didn't happen when I lived there. So, but the assumption was, I mean, we're talking about, you know, we're doing martial arts training. A lot of the targets that we hit, out of ignorance, not ignorance of the technique, ignorance of the damage caused or what part, right? I know for a long period in my training, right? My mind focused on the part of the body, like I'm hitting the chest right here. And well, the phrenic nerve is in there. Okay, phrenic nerve. Yeah, okay. So I hit here because there's this thing in there that gets this extra thing for me, and gives me more power, or gives me more damage, or whatever. Yeah, but what's the phrenic nerve plugged into, right? What's the vagus nerve plugged into? These little things, right? So people can get, and I know this to be true because I did it. My peers did it, right? We had to grow beyond these. We tend to classify things as basics or as whatever because, well, there's a Japanese term, kihon, right? That means basic. Yeah, okay. Let's try to not oversimplify things, right? So we have this kihon called ichimonji no kata. Okay. It's a basic technique, but what people really imply is that it's a beginner's technique. Yeah, no, it's a master's technique. It's an ideal. Right? I'm going to intercept this thing coming in one shot, I'm going to kill him. Right? Because the shudo to uko or chidome, or there's another point that's farther down, I can't remember the name at the moment. Uko, it's a kill shot. Okay. It's certainly not a beginner's technique. Okay. You got to get in there so that in one move. Okay. Because what's in there? Well, shit, the carotid artery is in there, the jugular vein is in there, the vagus nerve, which keeps your heart beating, the phrenic nerve, which keeps your diaphragm on that side moving so that you're pulling air in and pushing air out. There's a whole bunch of other bundles of wires and shit in there. But you've got the transverse processes sticking off of the vertebrae that are right there, which are actually the smallest ones that you have, right? And then, you've got the vertebrae themselves, right? That if I hit this damn thing and it shifts sideways, there's an electrical wire that runs down, right? From this big node inside my skull to send electricity to every freaking thing that I need to keep me alive, right? Yeah, it's a kill shot, right? So not only is that a reminder to be careful, but shit can happen. Okay, even with great care, shit can happen, right? Throwing somebody. I mean, I mentioned my student Christy earlier. Lost balance during a technique, and her and the teacher went down, and her knee went in a certain direction, and we now have a torn ACL, MCL, and meniscus. So she missed tearing the PCL. Otherwise, right, she'd have gone past the trifecta and just screwed everything apart. So, but it was just this thing where they did their best to not, get broken on the way down, but the way the body parts came together, shit happens, right? So there's this constant recognition, unless, right? Now, Sensei, Hatsumi Sensei's always said soft training, soft training. Yeah, I understand. Okay, I also was there when he described why and the point of it, right? Soft training was not to take away pain, the power inherent in the technique. It was to get people to stop forcing shit to happen because they didn't know anything. They didn't know what they think they were supposed to know. Okay, talk about that in a bit, right? So people were getting hurt. They were hurting others. They were getting hurt, and so he kind of rearranged the training pattern for a little bit. But the gist of everything was that you don't need to train fast and hard because a properly executed technique, even a slow one, hurts. So stop trying to make it hurt. You don't have to make it hurt. If you have to make it hurt, your technique sucks. If you have to force it, you're not doing it right. Right? So, but again, right, fell on deaf ears. But either way, there is this physicality. Okay. Now, before I go on with this, right, everything I'm going to be covering with these three things, right? This is not a made up ordeal. This actually mirrors the three aspects of a ninja. Right? Anybody that has anybody can double check my stuff, please, 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 please. Double, triple, quadruple check it. If you have Ninjutsu history and tradition, it's the first place it shows up for Westerners, or it's the first place that showed up for Westerners way back in the day when that book was first released. It was the first one that came out in English, right? There were many years before the Togakure Ryu Ninpo book, which came to be known as the Tenshijin Wadaki no Maki, was translated into English, right? So, but that's where we find the three aspects of a ninja, right? The Miwo Shinobu, right? The body capable of enduring. The Kokoro Shinobu, the mind capable of enduring. And the Shikiwo Shinobu is not just about indomitable spirit. This is also about reconciling what's going on the inside and where I am and how I align myself with this nature, right? Or this universal truth, or whatever. Hatsumi Sensei uses certain terms. We use other terms in Mikkyo, whatever. It's the same thing, okay? So there are these three aspects, right? And so the more I thought about this stuff, and the more I thought about that this saying that Soke, not Hatsumi Sensei, Soke Ichisuka Sensei, just kept saying, he would say it and then he would laugh, right? Or he would just have this big smile. And, you know, again, on a surface level, we all just agreed with his wife that her husband was a demon. Because shit hurts in his dojo. People that are not up to that kind of training, or they don't want to do that kind of warrior training, which is exactly what we all did long before the pacification of the masses. Then they go someplace else where they can, how did one teacher describe this? They can have a martial arts seizure, or they can enjoy a day at the amusement park, martial arts style. Right? So I'm not going to speak for everybody. Okay? I'm not making a general statement, but there are plenty of people who just want to have a martial arts experience. Okay? Kind of like going to an amusement park and going up and handing over your money to get a BB gun that you're going to shoot at targets, and then later you can tell people that you've shot a gun. Not you, but you know what I mean, right? So anyway, all right. So let's look at these three types of dying, right? 3 ways to die in the dojo. First one is, it's physical, it's literal, right? Shit happens. Okay? The point is to learn, obviously, the lessons, right? Learn how to deliver techniques and all that, but not forgetting to properly 100% play the role of the uke, whose job is to minimize and or avoid that damage altogether, right? Through ukemi, taihenjutsu, right? All that stuff. Okay. So, but yeah, shit happens. Okay. The second one is dying mentally. Okay. Now, I'm not talking about getting your head caved in or getting your head hit so hard with a freaking boken that you're, vegetable for the rest of your life. To me, that's akin to physical death. I mean, it is mental because you're going to be drooling and or drinking your food out of a straw or whatever. But what I'm really looking at is presenting yourself to the degree that your beliefs, your knowledge, your assumptions, those kind of things, right? They don't just get challenged. Sometimes they get flat out shattered, right? You find out that you are absolutely wrong about something, right? And if you have the right teacher, they're not going to let you get away with it, or they're going to look you right in the eye and do. If you're a parent, you might have done this before. Look right at your older teenager who they're not going to believe the old person, right? And they're going to go, okay, yeah, go ahead, yeah, you're a grown up, you can do whatever you want, right? And then they're going to leave you alone for a while, okay? So, but what ends up happening is we end up with confusion. We end up with anxiety. We could end up, being pissed off and angry or whatever, because how dare anybody challenge this? I had a teacher who told me that. My mommy and daddy told me and they would never lie to me. Whatever is at the root of the knowledge, right? Did we bother to validate, right? Did we check to see if the person who taught us that thing validated the damn information, right? That's why in Mikkyo we have this framework that explains the way karma works and the way it keeps the cycle of birth and death and all that kind of stuff happening. It's called the 12-fold chain of dependent origination. And the very first link in the chain is ignorance. Right? It's not stupidity, right? Somebody who's stupid can't process anything, right? All karma produced is accidental, right? If they're that diminished, they're in the animal realm, right? They're doing the same thing every animal does, right? Eat, sleep, shit, right? Get up next day, do it again. When the urge happens, well, then they fuck and procreate, but it's all accidental, incidental, all that kind of stuff. Right? It's not. There's nothing that they're aiming for, other than being cat-like, dog-like, lion-like, whatever. Okay? So, but we have these things, right? And now, granted, this is going way beyond just step-by-step learning physical techniques, right? Not just doing fighter mindset, right? How do we punch in this style? How do we kick in this style? What are the stances in this style? That kind of thing. It's not that. Okay? It's answering questions like, what causes conflict? Okay. And then getting another question bounced back off of you. I don't know. What type of personality are we talking about? Because on that same wheel of life, with that 12-fold chain of dependent origination, there's 6 realms. In modern psychology, we would call those personality types. And I know modern psychology, depending on the framework you're using, There could be 16, there could be 9, there could be whatever. Okay. But what personality type? Because each of those personality types thinks they know the answers to life based on that experience, which in and of itself produces certain goals, certain ways of doing things, certain habit patterns, and certain ever-present shit that they have to deal with. Okay? And so what are we talking about, right? Well, if we're talking about martial arts, right, then, okay, let's ignore styles. Let's ignore the physical style. Can we identify at least 4 different fighter types, as in like preferred method of engaging, preferred method of initiating, preferred method of striking, whatever? Because there's lots of people out there that fight and beat people up all the time or get involved in fist fights, but they've never been to a martial arts school. Okay, but they still have a style. They still have a fighter logic. Right. Same thing goes for kicking, whether or not they're going to grapple, whatever. Okay. So what do we have? Right. Call it call it baggage, call it whatever you want. Right. How do we tend to see things? When it comes to mentality, right? A teacher might call us on the fact that we're not looking at the right thing at the right time, or the fact that because they don't move in the dojo, or because they make major assumptions, that they're not looking at the whole technique. Or if when they're playing the role of the uke, they throw the punch and they just wait until the tori, the defender, does the move to them and all that, and they'll roll and come out of the throw or whatever they do, right? But in their head, the assumption is it's his turn to practice the technique. Which fucking technique are we talking about? Right? Because the tori is practicing a technique that's designed to neutralize a certain attack, enter a certain way, break balance a certain way, control the bubble a certain way, and guide that to a given resolution. The uke is practicing to throw that punch, hopefully correctly, right? With power, with precision, that kind of thing. And do everything from make the tori earn, depending on what level we're talking about, earn every move, or at the very least, their training is to feel, right? Tactile sensitivity, shiten, right? What that technique that supposedly the other guy is working on, what that technique does to a human body, how it breaks balance, from what direction, what angle, right? Those kind of things. When is it on? When is it not? Okay. All of those things, right? So the tori is doing the omote of the technique. The uke is doing the ura of the technique, right? The backside, the hidden side, the receiving side, right? So when we progress to a certain level, then we understand how to neutralize, how to block, how to escape from these things, how to know in an instant when this guy touches you or goes to take a hand, whether he's going to try to do omote gyaku, hon gyaku, ura gyaku, take ori, whatever, and whether or not he has his shit together. Okay, and then do I have the skill set that will allow me to neutralize it, or do I have to let him break it? So now I'm not locked anymore, and now I'm really pissed off, and whatever. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of things in there as far as the mentality goes, right? Where's your head? Where's it supposed to be? Right? You're not going to find that in the densho. And anybody that, including instructors, that only focus on the densho they're at best limiting themselves to a third of, I'm going to say, the unarmed stuff with some peppered weapons tossed in. Right? So anyway, so there's the mental side, right? And then there's this spiritual side, right? I alluded to that with the Shikyu Oshinobu. Now I'm using the word spiritual. Please, 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 please. Don't think that I'm talking about religion, right? What I was introduced to very early in this art, I'm talking like late 80, early 81. What I was introduced to this was when we use the word spiritual in this context, what we're talking about is probably stuff that is part of the mind and the mental faculties, but we have a hard time pinning it down to left brain, intellect driven qualities or functions. So it becomes more experiential, right? It's more, we might use words like intuitive or sensitive or feeling or those kind of things. But it's not like we have to adopt, I don't know, whatever, have to wear certain clothing or whatever. Not that we don't already, right? Okay. So within this realm itself, right, what I want to do is break this down into three subsets in and of itself. Okay. So again, we're still talking about dying, right? Well, mentally, how does other stuff make you die? Well, see, it's going to kill one of two things. Okay. And I'll come back to that again after I get through the spiritual thing. And I normally don't like throw things ahead, but I'm going to do it this time. Okay. Because people can get their head wrapped around physical and literal death. Okay. I don't like it. Not that they should, but as a warrior, we need to accept it. Right? Because that's what it's all about. Mentally, it's going to kill you in one of two ways. It's either going to kill the attachment or kill that wrong knowledge, right? Or it's going to kill your martial arts training, at least in this realm, or to this level or this degree, because you're going to quit. Okay. So what it kills is opportunity, right? On both realms, right? It's a double-edged sword. On one side, it kills the opportunity for that wrong thought, those wrong ideas, belief systems, perspectives, and all that to keep generating either chaotic or mediocre or half-assed or flat out wrong future thoughts, words, and deeds, right? Setting us up to have our ass handed to us, right? Because what's that? Hatsuma Sensei wrote an article about it. Pride goes before the fall. Okay. We are very proud of what we think we know. We're very proud of our accomplishments. We're very proud of our level of understanding. Okay. And then comes a teacher that, you know, there was a story that Hatsuma Sensei told about Takamatsu Sensei way back. And we did this. When did we do this? Shit. Wow. Way back. Late 80s, maybe. There was a year without a Santa Claus. No, not that one. There was a year where the theme was spear and shoto wakizashi, right? Short sword. And so I believe it was that one where Hatsuma Sensei led off with this idea that that most martial arts are too one-dimensional, sometimes two-dimensional. And he told this story about Takamatsu Sensei, still really young. I mean, 13-ish, 14, whatever. Very accomplished martial artist at that point. Cocky little bastard, right? And he went from being a crybaby, being ridden like a dog or a horse in the schoolyard during recess, to being honed into a warrior by his grandfather and his uncle, and Mizuta Sensei. But now he's all cocky, right? So I can't remember if it was his grandfather or his uncle. Either way, they were introducing him to spear. And the question was, can you block a spear or a staff weapon with a sword. And the Japanese teenager equivalent for our teenagers would be, yeah, like, of course I can. Okay? Good. See, there's that good again. Good, right? Take your boken, da da da, right? And then the spear thrust comes in, and the next thing you know, he goes to block this thing, and he's been tagged 3 times. Okay? His sword, in its attempt to block, has been countered, and he's been tagged 3 times. And thus begins the initiation into a whole new realm that every time you engage with the attacker, they get tagged 3 times. And I don't mean like rope-a-dope stuff and whatever. It has to do, again, next week's thing, we're going to be looking at Mai. And one form of Mai, because again, most people look at Mai as a distance interval kind of thing, but there was an angling aspect to Mai. Right? All this is tied into Tai Sabaki and all that, but there's an angling aspect. And so the whole idea is, can you take an angle where his block will be made impotent? It'll be neutralized. Not that he won't touch your weapon, but it's not going to do much. And then you're going to tag a point, and the next point you're going to tag is right in front of it. And then on the withdrawal, you're going to cut something different, right? So 3 times, 1 movement, out and back, and 3 things have been engaged, right? That's pretty fucking cool, right? So when we get caught up in these things and we don't understand it, right? Shit, it can really mess somebody up. Okay. Now, I had a peer way back in the day. As far as I know, he's still training in the martial arts, but I remember when he told me that he quit the Bujinkan, and he was doing this completely other thing. And what the hell, right? And he said, well, I was in a class one time, and Huntsman Sensei looked around and said, "I will lie to you." And that pissed me off. I'm not here paying you money to fucking lie to me. You give me the lessons that I'm paying you for. Can we say drive up window mentality? And he went someplace else where everything was omote. Everything was very simple, right? He forgot, or he didn't know where he needed to, which means that the only way the teacher can check to see if you are actually a free thinker, you are independent, can operate on your own while still learning and double checking and having critical thinking skills and strategic thinking and all that kind of stuff, right? Is every once in a while give you a broken technique and see if you're going to figure it out, and based on your own understanding or knowledge that that gets you in trouble, or this doesn't put you on the right angle to be able to catch that technique well, right? What the hell, right? Or is egos need to get it right no matter what, and including writing off the frustration or whatever, is it going to lead you astray? Right? How else would they check? How else would the teacher check to see if you're doing research, or if you're just accepting things on blind faith? Right? All these things that are necessary for mastery and to prevent people from blowing smoke up your ass, as a standalone warrior, how the hell are they going to check that? Right? They're just going to take our word for it? People lie all the time. Right? And especially if they're trying to be in good favor with somebody, or they're trying to win an argument, lie our asses off. Okay? So anyway, so it's either going to kill future opportunities for that dumb shit stuff to get us in trouble, or it's going to kill our opportunity for growth because we're not giving that shit up, because I know that to be true, and this teacher obviously doesn't know what I need him to know to continue to validate my ideas about how things go. It's the reason people jump churches. It's the reason people jump relationships, all kinds of crap, right? So anyway, let's get back over to the spiritual side of things, right? 3 types, okay? 3 types of spiritual dying, and I already started to allude to some of these, okay? First type is feelings get hurt, okay? Ego gets bruised, that kind of thing, right? So how the hell is that dying? Well, if we let it go long enough, well, you know what? I'll group all this stuff together here shortly. Okay. So the first one is feelings get hurt or the ego gets bruised. Okay. Second one is you're forced to make a decision, right? There's a song about it. Should I leave or should I go? Anyway, I'm not a good singer. Anyway, so you have to persist through the actual, or persevere through the actual physical pain, mental confusion, the struggle, all that stuff, right? You have to learn to tough it out and just get through it, right? That you embrace the suck, right? You just recognize it's a part of the process, okay? I'm going to be fucking uncoordinated based on certain moves that I'm given, right? Maybe the problem with the technique isn't that I don't understand the step-by-step, and no matter how fast or strong I go, or how fast or strong or whatever, no matter how many times I freaking repeat it, I'm not going to fix it until I fix a coordination issue that I have, until I fix a range of motion issue that I have, or something like that, right? So there's all this shit, right, that keeps obviously pointing right back at me, okay? And the third one is that you come face to face with the truth about yourself, right? What do you do when your feelings get hurt? What do you do when ego gets bruised, right? How far are we willing to go in that attempt to persevere through the pain, the confusion, the struggle, all that kind of stuff, right? We come face to face with the truth about ourselves, right? Are we cut out to be? Are we really cut out to be a warrior, right? Are we really cut out to be a ninja, right? One who perseveres against overwhelming odds, no matter what. Right? I don't know. That gets answered for everybody individually. Okay. What happens when you get injured? What happens when you get broken? Right? Like Christy's got the heart of a freaking warrior. I know that. She's halfway to black belt. It has nothing to do with rank, right? One, she exacerbated the injury because she just wasn't going to quit. Okay. I can't fault her for doing something that I would do, but at the same time, the injury probably wouldn't be as bad as it is. But when she came to me afterwards, her biggest frustration, and this came out of ignorance about like all the stuff that's in the art and what this injury and the rehab would actually fix with her taijutsu and all that kind of stuff, right? That it would force her, because she got pain indicators that everybody else has to theorize about, right? If I don't feel pain, then it must be right? Or nobody's corrected it up to this point, so, or the way I do it is, yeah, I know, but if you had pain sensitivity like she's going to have, if you don't do it right, it fucking hurts, literally, right? So, but her big concern was the doctor said I wasn't going to be able to train for 12 months. That's unacceptable. And then we had to have a long discussion about what makes ninjutsu different than if she were doing some other martial art. And I don't just mean style. I mean like options and all of the areas where she'll be busy training in things that most people only think of as interests. she will be forced to train from a chair, right? Even after her leg's not locked out, that she gets past those 8 weeks, starts coming into the dojo and whatnot, she's going to sit her ass, my rules, she's going to sit her ass in that chair and she's going to take notes. But if we're working something upper body, grab or something like that, and she's, there's a cue show or something like that, she's more than willing or more than welcome to, have somebody help her so she can try it out and whatnot. And I said, you're going to learn very, very quickly how to disconnect certain muscle chains in your movement. And you're going to get more body control because you're going to have to, right? When you move your torso or your arm to catch that thing, you're going to have to be ever mindful of not torquing the hip, which will turn the knee to the inside, braced or not, which will cause pain because it's not front and back. A hinge joint works one way. That's what makes it the strongest joint. Doesn't make it the strongest part of the body. They have their own weaknesses. But as joints go, hinge joints are the strongest joints because they only have one action. Ball and socket joints, like shoulders and hips, next in line because they can move farther, but they still have a limit to things. It's the universal joints, right? Wrists, ankles, by extension, the neck, right? Those kind of things. They're the weakest because we give up strength for mobility. We give up strength for range of motion. Right? We didn't intend to do it. It was by design, but that's the way that works. And if we see, I laid all this stuff out, you're going to learn this, right? And you're going to have this ever-present pain reminder. So you're going to have to do it right. You're going to know that stuff, at least on that side, to a degree that most students will only ever theorize about. Not that they can't get there, but this is going to be a game changer, right? You're going to know so much about the way the leg, the 3-joint system, that knee, about how it works. And you're also going to know about how it can be injured much better than everybody else, right? Because you're going to learn about your injury. The doctor's going to fill you in on stuff. I'm going to highly recommend you get into that Gray's Anatomy or whatever anatomy book you've chosen that is highly pictorial and all that kind of stuff, right? And on top of that, even when the leg's locked out for 8 weeks and you think you're going to go stir crazy, no. One, we have virtual classes, so you can always tune in and take notes and do what everybody else does. But I'll give you assignments, right? There's so many things, right? So many topics in this art. I mean, God, it's just she'll be you. She left smiling and she had this huge sigh of relief because I said, you're doing Ninjutsu, right? Ninjutsu covers every single aspect of our lives, from breathing out to the most complicated. And if you understand that, then you will never run out of things to practice, right? You will, you're going to know a lot. Anyway, so now all these things are true, that coming to face to face with the truth about yourself, that's unless you're being placated, right? Unless you're being appeased, unless the training is, we'll call it monochromatic, right? It's on one level, right? It doesn't mean that you won't have to not get through pain, bruising, tweaked joints, whatever. That's one aspect, okay? But there's an old saying about knowing a man's metal, and it could be a woman as well, right? Knowing a person's metal, right? What are they made of? Okay, so what the hell? What is this? What is this death thing? Okay, well, again, everybody understands physical and literal death, but when it comes to the mental realm, right? Mental types of dying, the spiritual realm, okay, again, not religious, right? What we're looking at is a constant recreation of ourselves. Most people just call it growth, progress, rank, whatever, right? But at its core, recreating ourselves, transformation, transcendence, right? All these things, growth, okay, is the death and rebirth of the self. That thing that you're talking about when you use the terms I, me, mine, right? Okay. And this is where we get back to that Shikyo Shinobu. Remember I said about reconciling the microcosm, what's going on the inside, head, heart, body, right? And how much that's in alignment with the macrocosm, the big picture, right? How close are we getting? How close are we at any moment to nature? Hatsumi Sensei's talked about that all the time. It's at the root of the Shinden Fudo Ryu, Tagagi Yosho Ryu, Togakure Ryu. And it's used in practically all the lineages, but this is something they lead with way out front, right? But it's not just closer to nature out there, but how close are we getting to our own innate enlightened nature? How close are we getting to ultimate universal truth, right? The way things really are, the way things really work, right? Because it's that kind of clarity that we need, and that from my understanding, right, that masters use to become one with things, to be able to use more than just their eyes and ears and all that to sort out this chaos and shit that's coming at you. Right? It doesn't make you invincible, but it does allow you to operate in a way that confuses people, because we're no longer operating based on assumptions and preconceived notions and definitions or beliefs about things being a certain way because somebody else told me that it was that way, right? Easy? No. Okay. Worth it? Yeah. Powerful? Oh, fuck it. Yes. Right? But there's things about us that are going to have to die to get there, right? We're going to have to change the way we do things. And this is where we run into problems, because part of ego's function is to protect the self, okay? To protect our self-identity, to protect who and what we think we are, okay? In and of itself, from a survival standpoint, not a bad thing, okay? From a growth standpoint, absolute poison, okay? Because to do its job, ego has to assume itself God and assume that everything about that self is perfect and doesn't require change. And here we are on a path that requires change to grow. Okay? So as I went through this, and I mean, the initial translation, right, from Isu Sensei's dojo, where every time you come to the dojo you risk death or risk dying, I mean, that hasn't gone away, right? All these things are all part of the same thing, right? But it got to be way deeper than just this physical death, because I watch 90% of the people that go to his classes, and there's always a huge surge when Kasem Zaguri, one of his senior students, goes somewhere in the world and does a seminar, and then people visit Japan, and right, there's always a surge to the Isuka Dojo. And then within days, there's a couple of days where everybody's packed in and trying to get things done. And it's literally small. I mean, if you think Hombu's small, this is like a gardening shed that's been converted. But within days, 90% of them are only going to Hombu, or they're going to classes where, I don't want to be touched like that. I don't want to be told no. I don't want to be, called on every detail that, whatever. But the phrase that really struck me, and actually, as I was putting together my notes for this episode that I'm going to use to wrap this up, is something that I was told along the way by different warriors, right, military and whatnot, that people would use a phrase, a fate worse than death, or there are things that are worse than death. And I didn't buy it, right? Because I had a fear of death, the physical death. I don't have that anymore. But there absolutely are. And I think a lot of us know what they are, right? Quitting or not committing or not getting and doing what we know we should, and then having to live with that. Being faced with a challenge, and not that anybody on that listens to this is this way, because we're all enlightened, right? But having to look the man or the woman in the mirror and realize that, dude, you've known all along, but this situation exposed you as the mouth with legs that you were trying to hide. Again, not you. We're all enlightened, right? But to me, something that is worse than death is, at the end of my life, being on my deathbed and having remorse that I didn't do certain things. Right? I want to close my eyes for the last time, sigh that last sigh, be ready for the next red adventure if there is one, but know that, man, cool ride, dude, cool ride. That's what drives me. That's a fear that I have, that won't happen, because I grew up listening to adults say that stuff all the time. That's where I inherited that one. Right? But and I live with it every day. Right? Trying to do things with the academy, trying to do things with growth of those kind of things, and get things to happen, not just more often, but to a greater degree and more significance, those kind of things. So anyway, this is not me on a pulpit pointing a finger or wagging or whatever. This is something that this is what I think about. Not just how to do an onikudaki better. I think about those things too. But worse than physical death, I think, is a soul that gets crushed. Right? Living in fear, anxiety, right? Afraid to really see what's real, because we don't want to know that we're wrong about certain things, or we're not what we think we already are, that there's still work to be done, whatever. Okay. But again, maybe you guys are, maybe you're already there, and that's fine. So at this point, I'm either singing to the choir or don't feel bad about it. But so anyway, right? All right, we're at that point to kind of wrap things up here. But before I let James tell me anything else here, James, if you could put the URL in the chat for folks so that they have it, and we'll try to make sure that it ends up on the description in under the YouTube thing when things end up over there for the Ninja Mind course. Right? Shameless plug. So if you're interested in a lot of this psychological, again, when I say spiritual, I'm not talking about freaking religion, psychological, this stuff at the tail end here, right? This reconciling things, this macrocosm, microcosm kind of stuff. What do we need to know? What did the ancients teach, and what's been passed down in our philosophical teachings that would allow us to work that shiki wo shinobu, right? That willingness to endure that constant process of learning and working and studying and practicing to get our skills and knowledge and understanding to a level more in tune with ultimate universal truth, nature, whatever you want to call it, and constantly dropping that which we were wrong about or we accepted, but we were too young to know that the other person didn't know what the hell they were talking about or whatever. But it's limiting us. It's inhibiting the progress that we want, right? We're working our asses off and we're not getting anywhere. Something's got to be off. And before we are out there blaming other people or how corrupt the fucking world is, or that's just not my lot in life. I was born in the wrong life, body, whatever. Bullshit, right? There's something that's off, and it's not a conspiracy theory, right? It's ignorance. And again, not stupidity, not knowing any better, not knowing the way things actually work. Right? So that Shiko Shinobu, man, people think that Miwo Shinobu and going through the friggin' tempering process of the body can endure, and going through the Kokoro Shinobu, having your freaking mind beat up, and mental gymnastics and those kind of things, right? And trying to develop clarity. This other part is quite the thing. But the Ninja Mind program is it's the primer, it's the introduction to the core lessons that were passed down that directly point to and help us develop that mental side and the spiritual intent, call it whatever word makes you comfortable, side of things, right? To get to that that innate, enlightened nature, this part of us it already knows, right? Or just being in tune more with nature that husband says they've been talking about for decades, whatever. Okay, so anyway, that's my offer. Okay, so now I'll open it up to James. James, are you still on? There he is. Look at that. Just popped right up. Pow.
Actually, I have not seen anything else come in.
Really? All right. Maybe I put people to sleep. Who knows? Or maybe their brains are smoking, or ears are smoking. Or, I don't know. James, do you smoke after sex? I don't know, Sensei. I've never looked. Okay. Never mind. Not that I want to know if you smoke after sex in either way, in either context. Shit. All right. Now that I've made him stop talking, not that that's difficult, although his woman tells me that it's only public. So, out in
The system's being
personal life, you talk all the time, and in the rest of the world, you're just thinking about how you're going to kill everybody in the room, right? Sorry. What were you gonna say? What did you say?
the system was being a little goofy on me once in a while during this. I was just making sure it wasn't trying to like catch up or something.
Okay.
Dave just said LOL, so it must be up to date.
Okay, fair enough. All right. So, like I said, next week, Wednesday, this Wednesday, I'm doing a part 2 on the resilience topic that I started last week on Whiteboard Wednesday. Bit off more than I could chew. That was a long episode. I have to chop that one up quite a bit. So we'll review the first 4 types of resilience that I introduced last week. Fill in the last 2 that were on my list, and cover an additional point or 2 that will be important for the stuff that's being done during the Friday virtual class, the Shinobi Kai class, which will actually be covered by Shinoshi Whistler, my right-hand man, because, like I said, I'll be out of state for a wedding. But for those of you who were either in Kai or doing the virtual stuff this past week, we focused on Tei and Tai Hodoki, right? Hand-arm kind of locks and escapes and body kind of things. Pulled a couple of old traditional pins and locks and whatnot. I wish we had more people in class. For escaping from this week, it's going to be, instead of grappling, it'll be the striking kind of stuff. So Shoshi Whistler will be leading people through like sparring drills. And the idea with the physical training and the drills is to create opportunities for growth. Because what should happen is the work or the technique or the way we're practicing or mental glitches or whatever happen at a certain speed will point to an area that needs to be trained. For instance, last class, and it happens quite a bit, instead of flowing between 2 parts, a student habitually stopped. So there's this a need, right? They're not resilient. Resilience means flexible and adaptable, the ability to stretch something and it returns to its original shape or holds that shape and hopefully is even stronger because of that. But their brain would just glitch between these things, or they would a mistake would happen and they would scramble. Different student would scramble for to hold on to that technique as opposed to recognizing the new thing that was going on. And so what we're really looking at is the ability to be adaptable and flexible, and to be able to endure challenges and pressure and things like that, so that we can live to the endurance and perseverance things that Nin's supposed to mean, right? But again, this time he's leading class, and he'll be taking folks through some sparring and reaction drills that I don't want anybody to feel bad about things, because that's another type of resilience. It's called emotional resilience, right? Where we don't handle challenges well, right? We get pissed off, or we get sad or depressed, or we suck or whatever, right? These drills are designed to not just test the skill sets that you have and where you are with them, but also where the holes are, where the gaps are, right? Where the need for attention is. We got to kill the problem, right? Or the monster stays with us. And if it happens in the dojo, ego writes it off quite a bit. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If it happens on the street, well, I'll pull the Nagato stuff back in again. Don't do right, you die. So, anyway, anything else, James, before I wrap this up?
Jeffrey just had some advice that if you are smoking, it sounds like a friction-related health issue. So, thanks, Jeffrey.
someone need canola oil or WD-40 or something. Wow. There's some chafing going on in the household. Anyway, all right. So we're going to leave that at that. And hopefully that didn't induce somebody to have a car crash or whatever while they were listening to this while driving down the road. Because a lot of my guys listen to the podcast while they're on the road. So anyway, all right. Thanks, Jeffrey. Appreciate it. Wow. That's all right. He's probably just said what we were all thinking anyway. All right. So again, next week we are going to be looking at, again, the whole theme for the week. So Whiteboard Wednesday, KUDEN, we'll kick it off with KUDEN. Yes, pun intended. Next episode, we'll be taking a look at this idea of my distancing and positioning ourselves for safety while simultaneously leaving ourselves or positioning ourselves so that we can easily and effectively deliver what we need to. Right. So the long and short of it is I want to be outside of his range where he can't get at me easily, but getting to him is easy. Right. I just extend my arm. There he is. Okay. Or whatever. Okay. But KUDEN will take a look at that from not just the martial perspective, but also relationships and things that are not physical fighting, right? That we still have to work on. I mean, half the training, right? So this shin kokoro, the bottom part of the kanji down here, right, is social skills, right? It's the ability to survive off the battlefield. Right. So anyway, that's it. James, thank you very much. Everybody that staying with things, thank you very much. So that being said, I will see everybody next time on KUDEN. Get more of KUDEN Radio. Subscribe through your favorite podcasting site or join our clan of serious modern warriors at onlineninjaacademy.com.